Hello everyone and welcome to Ghost Reviews. Today we are going to finally do a redraw of one of the worst drawings that I have ever posted. So yeah. And yes, I am referring to my previous Ringmaster video, so yeah, you're welcome. He needed justice and that is why I'm here today. So, without any further ado, let's get on with the video. First off, let's get into some background. So, of all the clown characters in this series, in my clown series, this guy is probably the least interesting. Other than the fact that he's got anger issues and will stop at nothing to succeed, there really isn't much substance to his character. I mean, he's not really even a main character, so that is understandable. I think there are like 4 main characters. Maybe 3. I'm leaning more into Isaac, Clyde, and Nikki, but... Originally, I just needed an extra character to be the group's ringmaster, and then I gave him blue hair to be original. No, it really was just impulsive to create another character. But even though he really only has a small role to play in the story, he is the leader of the performing circus, which in this case is basically like a demi in university, making sure that the young ones know what they're doing and helping out if necessary. I also think there should be like a written section to the whole clown school idea. I mean, the practical is like doing the circus acts, but like the written section, will that be like writing posters or drawing or something? But anyway, I haven't thought about everything of the whole clown school idea just yet. I am still collecting all my thoughts, and probably sometime I will start putting all the ideas into words to eventually create a book. So yeah, you guys can be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I basically just drew him to make up for my lack in the first time that I drew him, which turned out horrible. If you guys wanted to check out the whole art process, you can feel free, but ultimately, he did not turn out looking very good. But anyway, moving on to the picture itself. So, this time around, I did decide to make use of an actual Ringmaster reference and not just, again, something from. What was it? Welcome Home? I think I used a Welcome Home reference for the previous one. And I decided to look up the color palettes and the outfits of Ringmasters because I just wanted to put a little bit more extra thought in him. Ultimately, I would like to add a bit more to the characters if I can, and to their outfit designs and everything. So firstly, I did decide to add to Don's whole idea. I wanted to give him a top hat to add a little extra class to his look, add some red in his jacket to give more color, because the yellow and blue and a little bit of red and a lot of black, I don't know, it just feels like it needed a bit more. And then I changed the shape of his nose, you know, the face paint that was on his nose that looked like a rectangle. I made that more like Isaac's because I wanted to give that more normal nose shape. I could, of course, still give him a longer nose, which is the idea. He's actually supposed to be canonically a big guy with a strong nose. A strong guy, not necessarily big. So yeah, I did mess up a little bit with that, but I do think that he still kind of looks more like a ringmaster this time around. I also decided to give him gloves because you couldn't see the hands in the previous picture, and a cane to give that sense of upper class authority. Yeah, that was basically it. This time around, I also took my time when drawing him because I wanted him to actually look good. I didn't just want to rush off the drawing again and make him look horrible, because the first rendition that I ever drew of him looked so damn cute, but then I redraw him and it just looked horrible. So my main goal was just to redo and put time in, make him look okay. And I just got a damn paper cut. Ouchie. So, I must admit, it is pretty strange that Ringmasters, of all the reference that I use, they don't wear face paint, and mine does, but all the clowns wear face paint. That's just something that I wanted to add with them. They're almost always looking normal, with like brown hair, black hair, blonde hair, and no face paint. So, in my sense, it's like like a boring character. I don't like boring characters, so I am super glad that I decided to give him a little bit more personality, especially to fit the rest of my clowns. But yeah, let's move on to the tip section. That is also the final section. So, as you guys probably did notice, I put more minimal effort into creating a background this time around than with my previous two videos. I didn't want to do anything too fancy, but didn't want to make it look too dead either, so I played around with like brushes, gradients, opacity, just to kind of get a bit of a mystical feel to it. And I was working more with like blacks and blues. I don't know why, it gives a bit of a Frozen vibe. But yeah, it did end up looking more or less okay. And I wasn't following some set out rules to create the background. I just kind of winged it. Which brings me to my first tip. Literally, it's just to wing it. Oftentimes, we are super worried about perfection in our art style and what would look good, what won't look good. Do these colors fit each other? What am I gonna do with the background? That we sometimes forget about like natural talents that we have. Like, personally, one of my talents that I think is to create intricate looking armor that is basically just one continuous squiggly line. With this background, however, I just did like flowing hand motions, which I believe anyone can do with minimal effort. Just use different brushes and do squiggly loop-de-loops, and boom, there we go, background. And of course, the gradients. You really don't have to put in a lot of effort, and you don't even need a steady hand to do it, and it still turns out looking half decent. So, yeah, that's amazing, actually. Tip number 2 is to use a 2-level shading. And I do believe I have mentioned this one before, especially when it comes to anime shading. To give a little bit more depth to the characters, you use 2 levels. A lighter one and a darker one. But both of them layered on top of each other could be like the same level of opacity, like 50% on a multiply layer, and still kind of turn out looking half good. So the first level of shading is where the light doesn't touch at all, okay? And the second layer of shading is basically just to add a little more depth. And it is optional, but usually just to give the character a little bit extra, the second layer of shading is preferred and recommended. And tip number 3 again is if you're using the paintbrush, like I did with the shading in this art piece, make the brushing strokes that you would use if you were like actually painting. But of course, it's way messier, which is why people prefer the digital art style or the digital platform to be able to use a bunch of different like mediums without messing or without having to like put a hole in their budget or their money or whatever. That is what the digital platform is there for. So this one is actually pretty obvious to the painters out there, as you have been painting for years, maybe even decades if you're a long timer. But for me, as someone who used to color with markers, it was just usually an up and downward continuous motion. That was how you color with markers. You can do just an upward stroke flicking movement, and it could give a little bit of different texture to your characters. But for me, I'm not really that much of a painter. I have dabbled in watercolor, and even then, it wasn't that important to move in one motion. But the brush that I have used over here, it was more of like a normal paintbrush, okay, with like that weird texture type of thing in the brush itself. So that means that wherever the shading is, from that shading you start with your brush and then you flick it downward, and you do that a few times to give an overall shading feel to the part of your character that you are trying to shade. Yeah, and that's it. It does end up at the end of the day, when you're finished with that, it does look like a rough work in progress, which is what a painting is. It is a rough piece that has a lot of structure, but has more freedom than, let's say, 2D animation and art style, which is why I really liked actually doing this. And did the same with the close-up version of Melody in my previous videos, so yeah, it is fun trying out different styles and using different strokes and, just picking up different techniques because it's always fun to learn. Well, not always, but most of the time. So anyway, that brings me to the end of my video on Don, the ringmaster and leader of the clown group. It's actually such a shame that he's not the most interesting character, but he definitely has the most class and style of all the characters. And I didn't realize this before, but this is the second primary based character that I have created. I was looking for one in my God's Torment characters as well, but I didn't find any, which is kind of a shame. But in my Merryweather Apartments, Casey also has that primary color scheme going. And I think actually Alex from my Alley Cats has the same thing. She's not a normal reoccurring character anymore because apparently people didn't like seeing that over on my Instagram. So yeah, that's why we changed things up a bit and started a YouTube channel. I do think in the future I am gonna start drawing the characters in more poses that fit their personality. Like maybe drawing Dawn standing in front of an audience of people clapping their hands after a show. I don't know. But yeah, that'll take some time to master a few different skills before I can be able to do that. For now, I'm more of a close-up character designing person. But remember guys, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, as it really does help out the channel a lot and shows me that all the time and effort going into these videos isn't for nothing. Also, if you're curious about what the altered end product looks like, please feel free to check out my social media links in the description box below, especially my Instagram, which has weekly posts, my TikTok, which has line heart speed draws, my Redbubble shop, which has a lot of merchandise containing some of my older artworks, as well as my Artistree account, where you can order custom artworks at pretty reasonable prices. Yes, prices are reduced, so go check that out if you want to. But again, thank you guys so much for having watched this far. Your support really does mean the world to me, no matter how small it is or how big it is or anything. It's just fun for me to create these videos. So still, thank you guys. So until I see you guys next time, please stay safe and remember to keep practicing. Bye!